we have two or three, which one should we, which one should we support? Or if there was a de-expedition, should it be supported a little or a lot?
Yeah.
And it's just simply, you just answer some questions about, and you answer some questions based on some data that you get, you know, where it ranks in the most wanted list, you know, how many TDXS members need it, you know, other things like that. And those questions, if you answer it one way, you know, you get 5 points. If you answer it another way, you get 3 points. And if you answer it another way, you get 0 points. And the idea would be that, you know, we would go through and all do, or several of us do an evaluation, and we come up with a recommendation based on that. If I gave it a 5 and Doug gave it a 0, we discuss that and we come to some rationalization about, well, it's not a 0 and it's not a 5, what should it be? You know, maybe Doug convinced me that it should be 0. But anyway, but we would have that recommendation and that basis, and then we could put that out there to the club as a whole and say, okay, the Expedition X, we went through this, it gets 17 for these reasons. We think they should get $1,000. What do you think? And it would give us something to work off of. It's just a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that was a pretty good system. Unfortunately, we don't have a DX chairman anymore.
Right.
But if Orville can dig that up, maybe we should look at it again. I'd like to see us do something with that money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's other than pay for our insurance, our liability insurance, and our QSO party plaque obligations. That's about all we use it for. So
I'd like to see us sponsor more plaques, but most of them seem to be taken. You just have to be on the watch to see if them pops up.
Okay, so if y'all have an opinion about that, send me an email later and we'll see if we can get that going again. Second item on the list of the agenda is the last week or so, there's been a lot of nostalgia, a lot of discussion of the history of the past and the history of TDXS and so forth on the reflector. And it might be something to try to gather, but it needs someone to verify it, somebody who has a passion to do this and follow it through, because it's going to take some work. Now, don't everybody hold up your hand at one time.
Well, the thing that I talked about that I think is worth some effort, or might be worth some consideration, a better way to say it, is because I saw an activity like this with my wife's family, where they're documenting activities of their mother and father who were pretty significant in many, you know, political ways and all that kind of stuff. And what we did was we sat in a room and we had some questions, and each of the children, and there's eight children, and there's a whole bunch of grandchildren, and so it was a big group, right? So they would pose the question, and each of the brothers and sisters would have, you know, would make their comment. My wife's dad was a pretty good boxer, and the girls didn't have anything to say about boxing, but the boys all did because they were interested in that kind of thing. They saw that sort of thing. So then they're in the process of taking these, and so if you have this little blurb, you know, this is Bernard and Charles Pickney talking about Charles Lewis Pickney's boxing career, and the dates on it, and then they go through, they each tell their little story, and that's going to be available for all the thousands of great grandkids and that sort of stuff that are now, or whatever. It was fairly easy to do. It does take somebody with the software and the skills to, you know, just clip these things out. But they're, you know, you got 3 minutes to tell your story. There it is. And someone else has got 3 minutes to tell their story, so it can kind of be true.
Yeah,
that was, and the idea there was to capture it. It was not put in a book, or it gets better. It was much easier than writing, because I talked about, well, you know, everybody can write down their stuff, but nobody likes writing. It was just a thought. Might be a useful tool.
okay. Well, again, it takes someone to pick up that,
Yeah, you need
baton.
somebody to do that. If that's a tool, and if you like that tool, you do need somebody to run it.
Okay, last thing, item on the agenda was the Texas QSO party. It's only a month away, 4 weeks away. And sure like to see us do a little bit better job than we've done recently. We've been okay, but we could do better. I'm gonna have the September Zoom meeting on September 7th. It's early in the month of September, but that gets us about a little over a week to 10 days before the QSO party. And see if we can have a discussion at that meeting of just, you know, how can we generate more interest, more activity, more rovers, more people stay at home talking, just get more QSOs. Because you hate to see us lose by 100, something like that, to our arch rival.
So if you go back and look over the last 5 years as a club aggregate, we've either been second or third. And sometimes when we've been third by a lot, if I remember correctly. And when we've been second by a little. But, you know, and you look at the QSOs and stuff we made, it looks like we have lots of room. We have a fair number of CWO guys. We don't have too much phone activity. So that, to me, that would be, you know, fairly easy to get a few guys to get on for a little while. I think that could ramp up our score quite a bit. And for that meeting, I'm going to go back and dig up some of those stats. I'm not going to have a whole lot because I'm not trying to make this meeting very long, but, you know, talk about that. And, you know, if we can, I mean, it's really not difficult to make cues in the Texas QSO party on phone.
Yeah.
You know, really, and you could get, I think that could help us, you know, that could help us substantially.
Okay.
Central Texas Club, 35 CT. Pretty focused on Texas QSO party. I mean, you can find they're up at the top all the time.
Oh, they are.
I'm about to see the slide.
Well, when I looked at the data last night, I saw we'd have to multiply our score by many times. But no, I think, but we check really a huge difference.
Yeah.
You know, I think they had more active persons in that club. I think it's above them, the Dallas group, would be even more. I mean, they put together 14 in 18. You can see that. We got one.
Anything else? Let's go ahead with the program. We'll be talking about DXCC card checking and obtaining awards.
Okay, guys, this is going to be kind of clunky because some of the things I want to show you are actually on the internet, and it's not very easy to switch back and forth between these. So I'm going to share and stop sharing and reshare screens and that kind of stuff. So what I want to talk about is how you use QSL cards to obtain ARRL awards. So I am a newly appointed card checker, and in my short tenure, I've had a number of experiences with checking cards with various people, some TDXS members and some that are not. Had lots of varying experiences. There's a number of issues that are kind of common that keep coming up. So I put this presentation together to help it, to make it easier for both the guy that's applying for an award and the card checker that he's using, if he's using the card checker, to make it easier. And I'm focusing on these 3 primary awards, and really it's the first 2 DXCC and the VUCC, and then worked all state.
Not hearing any audio here.
Doug,
Whoever owns this needs to unmute Roby.
yeah, Doug, when you muted, we lost all the audio.
It must have been, I think we were hearing the microphone on Doug's computer and not on
Yep.
Roby's.
Right.
That's why Roby was so echoey.
They're not listening to any of us either.
No.
Hey, Doug, when you muted, you killed everything. That got sound on.
It is now? No? Do I need to start over? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you need to go back all the way back to where you,
Okay.
Logbook of the world.
This discussion is about using paper or using QSL cards to obtain ARRL awards. I'm a newly appointed card checker. I happen to be a DXCC card checker. We'll talk about what that means in a few minutes. And with the applications that I have received, there has been quite a bit of issues that have popped up in in doing my part of this activity and getting people cards into the system so that they can be they can get the credit that they're looking for. And I'm going to focus on 3 primary awards. Really only 2. I'm going to talk mostly about DXCC and VUCC, and Worked All States is another one. These are the 3 most popular ones. There are 3 ways for you to get credit for an award, for an ARRL award. You can get a credit through Logbook of the World, or you could submit a traditional paper QSL card directly to the ARRL, or you can submit a traditional QSL card to an ARRL card checker. So why do we want traditional why do we use traditional QSL cards whenever Logbook of the World is fast and relatively inexpensive and easy to do? The basic reason is not everyone uses LOTW, and sooner or later you're going to need to submit a card to get credit for some entity, some grid, some country, some state, or whatever, to finish out the award that you're looking for. So I'm going to be focusing on the paper approach. So the approach is fairly straightforward whenever you understand it. And I'm going to try to talk about it from an overview, and then I'm going to go through details and actually show you a couple of applications, or how you would do a couple of applications. So the first thing you have to do is review the rules. The rules sometimes are a little bit difficult to understand, but you got to know what award you're going to apply for, because if you bring me a stack of cards and you don't know what you want to do with them, I can't help you. You need to determine if you're going to modify an existing award. That's called an endorsement, or you're going to obtain a new award. And that's the only two options you have. You either are endorsing an existing award or you're obtaining a new one. Once you review the rules and decide what you want to do, you need to assemble the corresponding QSL cards, assemble, gather, collect, organize, whatever word you want to use there. And then you need to get the application sheets, the sheets that describe the application, and the record sheets that you need to fill out and prepare those. And it's really not difficult. It's just some paperwork. But then after you get the completed application, the application's complete, get your record sheets filled out, and I wish I could see that. Then you have to submit those along with your QSL cards to submit the application so that it can be checked and you can get credit for it. Each application, each award has multiple paths that you can follow to prepare an application. These paths are similar, but sometimes they have great variation in them, and we'll see that particularly with the Worked All States Award. And all applications you're either going to submit these applications directly to the ARRL, or you're going to send them through a card checker. Those are the two ways that it's going to end up. So where do you find the rules? It's kind of important. So there's links on this page, and I'm going to try to go to one of these to show you. The top link, this link, is just the ARRL webpage. This one takes you directly to the DXCC rules. This link takes you to the VUCC rules. And this link takes you to the Worked All States rules. Some of these rules are PDF, some of them are HTML, some of them are searchable, some of them are not, so they're different. But that's the way it works. So let's see. I'm going to look at the DXCC rules. Stop the share. All right, so here are the DXCC rules. This is the web page where you find them, and you're going to have. It talks about the basic rules, what kind of award you can apply for, mixed, phone, CW, all that sort of stuff, different band combinations, all those sorts of things. So this is where you go to learn what to really hone what you want to find out. And the reason I point this out is several guys have come to me wanting to apply for awards that don't exist. So give you an example, not that this has actually been given to me, but it's one that I can think of right off the top of my head. DXCC does not accept cross-mode contacts. In other words, I can't be on CW and the partner that I'm working would be on sideband. That doesn't work. They don't have a way to accept that. So if you have North Korea that way, sorry, not going to work for you. Now, crossband is another example, right? And there are other examples. And these rules also have a list of the countries. Some countries are no longer valid. Those kinds of things. So you have to look at the rules. All right. So I'm not going to go look at the other rules unless you specifically want me to, but it's the same sort of thing. For VUCC, cross mode doesn't work, crossband doesn't work. There's other idiosyncrasies that each set of rules have, and you need to know what you're asking for, what you're applying for. That's the bottom line. So the next thing I'll talk about just briefly is what is a direct submission? With a direct submission, you're going to complete your form, your application form, and your record sheets. You're going to have your form of payment, and you're going to have all of your QSL cards together in the appropriate order, and you are going to mail those to the ARRL headquarters.
What's the appropriate order?
The appropriate order depends on the award, and it is spelled out on the record sheet and in the rules. So if you look at the record sheet, and we'll look at one of those in a minute, it tells you for VUCC, they have to be in order of grid square, alphabetical, alphanumeric grid square, right? DXCC is by entity, by band, I think. So each one is different. So that's why you have to, and you know, I got one application with one card. The guy wanted an endorsement on 6 meters for one country. Well, that's easy. Order's easy, right? But think about if you had 100 cards, it's a lot more difficult, right? So you know, the onus of the order is on the applicant. So take some time and look at that. It's not, like I said, it's not difficult. Anyway, so you mail those to headquarters, and they do the required checking, and they process the application form, they take your payment and all that kind of stuff. And then they will return your cards and your certificate or your plaque or whatever it is you're requesting. And if there's any endorsement stickers or anything like that with it, they will all be returned to you in the mail. And you have to pay for that shipping as well. So what's a submission through a card checker? So you're going to complete the same application form and the same record sheets or a similar record sheet, and you're going to get your QSL cards and you're going to get them in the same order. And you can find a card checker, which is somebody local, and you set up an appointment with those guys and you meet with them, and they will do the card checking. They will review the application, and then when they have completed their card checking, you will get your cards back. In fact, Kim sitting in here in the room mailed me some cards to check in an application a few weeks ago, and I returned the cards to him. And we'll talk about some of these variations in a few minutes. The card checker is responsible for sending the completed and signed off application along with the record sheets, and that's all, to ARRL, and they will finish the processing, and then they will mail you your certificate, your plaque, your endorsement stickers, or whatever it is you want. That will all come from the ARRL. So the card checker saves you that shipping of what could be a significant amount of material. Card checkers also will help you as best we can correct errors or that sort of thing. And bottom line, it just takes a whole lot less time, I believe. The fees are the same.
Yeah,
okay.
We don't hear the
question. What is a card checker?
Roby.
How do you recognize one? Well, card checkers are volunteers that are appointed by the ARRL staff and management. And I was appointed by John Stratton, the West Division. No, he's not West Division. He's anyway, John Stratton out of Austin appointed me to my position. We're authorized to do this. ARRL says that, you know, we look at these and they're good, kind of a thing. These field checking activities. And there's a lot of card checkers, and I'm going to show you how to find a card checker in a few minutes. They're actually around the world. In fact, I had lunch about a month ago, and one of the individuals there was TG9AJR from Guatemala, and he is a card checker. And he was at the meeting, and along with me, there was Bob N5ET, who is a card checker, and Juan TG9AJR had a stack of cards for Robert to check. So just before lunch, they checked the cards. That process. So card checkers can't do our own checking, bottom line. Okay, and we are required to go to at least one Hamfest a year for this purpose. And of course, for us, I mean, I come to most every TDXS meeting. I go to several local ham fests, that sort of thing. You know, it's the idea is with card checkers is to make it easy. You don't have to go far. You don't have to do much. And later on, we'll talk about some of the ways to make that happen, because each card checker is different, and you'll see that. But there are 3 different kinds of card checkers. So if you look at the application form, you will see that, like on the WAS application form, it says you need to have the form approved or submitted to an ARRL awards, or it should be just say ARRL HF awards manager, typo on it. That's also known as a WAS card checker. And these 2 terms are used interchangeably in different documents. So that's one of the points that's really confusing about this, is just what is an HF awards manager and how is that different from a WAS card checker? Well, there's really not any difference. They're just 2 names for the same individual. But they're only authorized to check cards for worked all states. Ditto for the VUCC VHF awards manager, sometimes known as a VUCC card checker. He or she can check cards for that award. Now, there's called a DXCC card checker. And the DXCC card checker is higher in the hierarchy of card checkers, and he or she can check cards for DXCC, for worked all states, or for VUCC. But there's even another little split, and that is not all DXCC card checkers can check 160 meter cards. You have to have there's another level there, and another level. And fundamentally what it is the rules are written, I guess, from the old days, whenever there were so many restrictions on 160 meters, that you have to hold 160 meter DXCC in order to be able to check 160 meter cards for DXCC. So I'm one of those. I'm a DXCC card checker, and I guess you want to look for it. Makes it easier. So how do you find a card checker? It says here my internet is so I'm going to do the DXC card. Stop share. So here's a screen that you can find. That link takes you to this screen. And this is where you can look up the DXCC card checkers. You can go by state, country, zip code, and distance in the US, that kind of thing. So let's just look at Texas, just for make it easy. And I don't know, I can't see I can't see. There we go. So there's 17 card checkers in Texas. KP4P, K9MK, you may know these guys, you may live close to them. There's George, Joel, all these different guys. Bruce Page here in not too far away, right? Then Madison, is a TDXS member, but he lives in Austin, and he's a card checker. There's me. And just so that you guys that don't know me very well, I live south of town. I live in Galveston County, just south of Johnson Space Center. So anybody that's in that part of the world, I'm a good target, because you don't have to drive 50 miles on the way to find me, right? So this is how you find your card checkers. And it's really not, it's not difficult. All right, so I'm going to do this. So you find each of the other card checkers in a similar fashion, just go to a different place. Now, when you go on the ARRL website, whenever you try to find these things, if you don't use one of these links, these card checkers, names and addresses and the like, appear in PDF files in list form too. So you may find those, but it's the same information. And they do try to keep it updated. So here are the details of using the card checker. You sort the cards according to what's on the application. This is particularly important if you've got a large stack of cards, which you probably won't one of these days. I've never gotten more than about 10 at once. Locate a card checker using the approach I used before. Call him or her and make an appointment. Say, hey, can we get together? You come to the next TDXS meeting, come 30 minutes early, 20 minutes early. We'll do it. We'll do it then. That kind of thing would work. Meet somewhere for coffee. Whatever you want. We can make it work. Well, I can understand that. Okay. Then you have your meeting, and the card checker is going to review your application, and he or she's going to check your cards, and if he sees them, he'll identify errors and stuff that you can correct right there. You can get that stuff corrected, so you don't have to cycle back and do it all over again. One example, I was checking the cards for some guy, and on his record sheet, he had a certain country or whatever, and he had the mode listed as CW, but the card clearly said it was FT8. So I said, hey, this needs to be digital here, not CW, or maybe it's the other way around. It doesn't matter. Okay, line it out, sign off on it, goes through, right? No problem. That's the kind of thing you can help. Now, if you sent that to headquarters, they'd send it back to you. You wouldn't get credit for it, and you'd probably have to do the process for that one. So we don't want to do that. We can avoid. Also, the card checker is going to return the cards to you as soon as he finishes that effort. When he finishes the effort, he's got your application, your record sheet, he's checked your cards. You're going to be asked to sign off on the application, and he's going to sign off on the application saying that this is done, right? That's the way to do it. So, and the card checker is going to take those record sheet or sheets, however many there are, and your application form and a form of payment if you're paying with something other than a credit card, and he's responsible for getting that to the ARRL. We'll take it right there. He's going to give you your cards back. So it's important, in my opinion, to pay with a credit card if you can. That way you don't have to give the guy a check. And I don't take cash, so I don't know anybody that does. So for the different awards now, we're talking about some of the approaches that you can use to prepare the application for the award. And the first one, and the one I suggest you guys use for DXCC, is called the online application. So we're going to look at this in just a second, but basically you're going to enter your QSL card information into the ARRL website. You're going to print. Okay, thank you. You're going to print your application and record sheets based on the information you put in. When you fill out this application, you're going to tell it that you want an endorsement for 160 meters or, 3Y0J or whatever it is that you're putting in all that kind of information. And when you do that, you'll see what the cost is going to be. All that will sort of work out. And then you will enter in your payment information, how you want to do it, your credit card or whatever you want to do there. And the system will have you print out those sheets. Then you take your cards and those record sheets to your card checker, and then he will check the cards and sign off on that stuff and mail it in. So here's what this looks like. So here's the page. What the page looks like as far as online card checking goes. And here is the welcome to the system. So when you click on the system, it's going to take you to where you're going to do the application. So here you're putting it in step by step. You're going to enter your QSLs. You're going to submit an application. So here's the way we do this. So you enter your QSLs, and down here at the bottom, one pops up. You can go on as long as you want here. So 1,000 or whatever. So we're gonna fake this one. Like I worked, and this is my personal page. I'm logged in for my ARRL. I'm logged in with my credentials for ARRL, so it knows this is me. And you have to do the same thing.
I seem to recall that you don't have to have the order. It's that way. Try the same order.
Yeah, it's the same. That's what it's.
They're up to you to buy anything.
Yeah, but it puts them in that order. So when it does that for you. So when you put them in the order that's on the list, it's the same. It does what the rules say. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So let's just say that I worked North Korea earlier in the month, right? And I want to get this on my records. And I worked him on 15 meter, let's say CW, just for grins. Now I save that. Now, see it pops up, says, hey, what's your next one? He's filling in, right? But this is all, right? This is all the one I want. So I'm going to submit my application now. Cards, but okay, I got to save. I thought, okay, I did save that. You all my QSL cards. So do you see where it says submit an application?
Last paragraph there on the. That is.
It probably knows that, yes. So I should be able to. Okay, so you may not start a new application while you have an award or endorsement application still unprocessed. That's the problem. What I was looking for was a little bar that said submit an application, and I have one pending, so it won't let me submit another. Okay, so what I was going to show you is just, basically filling out the form, what award do I want, so on and so forth. So let's look at my application history, and we'll see that. Okay, so you can see on 23/8/15, there's an application that's pending. So let's look at my application. This is what you're going to end up with. This is what the system will give you whenever you finish. So here's the application. It says that I'm applying for an endorsement. I've got 10 QSOs.
Roby.
My
Roby.
pertinent information. My credit card information is hidden. What? Okay, hang
We
on.
don't see it.
Gotta do another share. Sorry, guys. Is that it? Yep, that's it. Okay, so you can see this is my application. Address, name, how many QSOs? My credit card information is hidden. That's just another security thing if you're big into that. And then here's my record sheet. And it says cards, this is the cards, and this is the order that the cards need to be in whenever they're submitted, just like this. So I'm submitting 10 cards. And not all these are for new DXCC. Some of these are for band slots, but it's what I had. So this is the online process. So what I did, my card checker of choice is Bob N5ET. I called Bob on the phone, and since we live about 50 miles apart, I said, "Hey, buddy, can I send this stuff to you by the mail? And you check it and you send it in?" He said, "Sure." So what I did is I sent this form, this record sheet, my cards in the order that they're on the page. Okay. I sent back a big envelope for him that was stamped for him to return my cards to me, and I dropped them in the mail. So he sent me an email this morning saying that he had checked my cards, everything was in good order, and my cards would be in the mail tomorrow. So then he will submit my application and my record sheet to the ARRL. Make sense? Okay. So I think this method is, I think this is the easiest method. And you can only do this for DXCC. So, but that's what we got. So the DXCC application for paper is very similar, except what you're going to be doing is here with this link, it will take you to a form. It will take you to the actual form. You will print out the form and fill it out. This is the actual record sheet. You will take your cards and you will organize them according to the rules on the application. And you just basically, it's just transcribing the information. Then you can take this to a card checker like me, or you can bundle everything up like we talked about previously and mail it to the ARRL. So that's the way that works. And I don't think I need to show you. If anybody wants to see one of these, I'd be happy to show you to you, but it's just a paper form. So, sir.
On the previous method, I think it's worth mentioning that you can start filling out cards in that application at any time. You don't have to submit the application. Next time you go back in, everything you previously entered is in there. So you can kind of keep a running flow of cards you want to submit.
Absolutely.
That's what I do. That way I'll get to submit.
Yep.
Roby,
Absolutely.
can you hear us? Can Roby hear us? Can
The
anybody else hear
VUCC
me?
application process is the same generally, except the application form is different. The rules are different. What kind of awards you can apply for, those kinds of things. And the record sheet is different, but it contains, roughly the same information. So unless somebody wants to look at this one specifically, I'm going to let it stand at that. Once you complete the application, mail it to ARRL or go through a card checker, one or the other. Now, worked all states is a little bit different. Its record sheet and application are kind of all together. And if you're going to do this one, you print out the record sheet and application is here. Fill it out. Same drill as before. Goes directly to ARRL. It goes through a card checker. Same thing. The form is different because the what you're looking for is different. You're going to only have 50 cards. If you have 5-band worked all states, you have 250 cards. That kind of thing. So the forms are a little bit different, but the process is still the same. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't think we have a lot of WAS guys in here, but the hybrid process allows you to use both logbook of the world records and QSL cards. And fundamentally what you're going to do is you're going to start, it's going to produce a special application form and record sheet for you. And you're going to start as though you were going to submit everything, you're going to submit for the WAS award using using logbook of the world. And then as you progress through that, you're not going to have enough credits to get all the states So the process is going to kind of force you to say, okay, you must want to submit these by QSL cards. So then it will print out a special sheet, a special application and record sheet, and it will only be the record sheet will only be for the cards that you need to submit. Everything else has gone in by a logbook world. Okay, so this is a twist. It makes it very confusing. So then, like we say here, when you get to that point in the process, you print the field checklist, and then you take the field checklist and the application page that goes with it, and you either mail that to ARRL or you take it to a card checker. Well, that's a little bit squirrel, I think. And they caution you several times, you need to use that special form that this process prints out for you and not other WAS forms. So kind of what are the responsibilities of the different parties here for the applicant? I mean, obviously we got to communicate clearly. Ask me what you need to bring. You got to have an application for all awards and endorsements. You know, there's no middle ground. You're doing an application, period. You just got to say what kind you're looking for. A non-cash form of payment, generally what's required. Now we're getting into some of the nitty gritty stuff here. For instance, Bob N5ET requires, or he submits the application and the record sheets for cards that he checks to ARRL by mail. So I give him a stamp and an invoice so he can do that. It's just a couple of pieces of paper, right? So I give him, but if it were a whole bunch of cards, I might have to give him, sufficient postage, right? He does it by mail. Okay, his choice. So he's not going to support my effort, so I support that, right? Complete these forms legibly and accurately as best you can. Organize the cards for the record sheet. That really makes it easy, makes this process go faster. Make corrections if you need to, if it's pointed out that you need to make one, you go ahead and make it. And you got to provide postage. Oh, well, I said that for the applicant to mail it to the ARRL. So for the card checker, I think I have to communicate clearly. I have to explain my unique requirements. And we talked about some of these before. If you give me an application, I'm going to submit it electronically. I'm going to scan the record sheet, and I'm going to scan your application, and I'm going to send it by email to the ARRL, which is legitimate. And I don't know, I have not asked Bob, and I'm not trying to pick on him why he doesn't do that. Maybe he doesn't have a scanner. I do. I mean, it could be that simple, right? It doesn't really matter. But so I'm not going to ask you for an envelope like that, right? So I have those. And as I mentioned before, I will work with you through the mail. If you want to send me cards and send me the forms and the cards and stuff, I'll check them, send the completed document in electronically, and mail the cards back to you. But if I do that, please give me an envelope with sufficient postage or sufficient, funds to send you your cards back to you. If it's one or two, it's not a big deal. It's a first class stamp. But if it's 25 or 30 or 50, it's a little bit different story, right? I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to try to identify any errors that I see. Make sure that it goes through right the first time for you. I'm going to provide you with answers to the question that any questions that you have as best as I can. And I'm going to submit your application to the ARRL as quickly as I can. So usually they go in the same day. When I was at Texas City, I had some applications to check, and some of those Texas City Hamfest was on Saturday. All of those were in by Monday. Reasonable time, right? So in this process, particularly reviewing the rules in the application and preparing your application, if you've got questions, the answers are on the ARRL website. The ARRL website is not the best organized. And this has been evolved. It has evolved over a long period of time. So some things are, like we indicated, There's different names for card checkers on different forms, that kind of thing. So it's can be a little bit convoluted at times. So just try to keep your cool and, kind of work through it. You can ask questions directly to the ARRL with these email addresses. If you're confused about what kind of award you can apply for, you think you're trying to get 5-band DXCC or 5-band worked all state CW, which I don't think you can do that. I think you just get 5-band worked all state period. But, you can you got a source of information, a source of getting
There is no endorsement, I believe, for CW5.
That's what I got that from you. What's the reason I said that? Hoping you would chime in on that. All right. And, of course, you got to word your questions and stuff pretty accurately. You can also cut and paste stuff in, the ARRL, these guys that work these emails are pretty good. And a card checker may be able to answer your question too. And I don't have any opposition to you calling me and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. What do you think? And I'll tell you what I think. I won't guarantee it's the right answer, but I will do my best to give you an answer. So that's the process. Anybody got questions?
You don't have your speaker turned on there, Roby.
I got one.
We have
Well,
lots
that's
of
a good start
questions,
to
but
be
you
fine.
aren't hearing us.
You and I both know it's no good. Who confirms that the card is okay, that the expedition they've been authorized and approved and all that?
The DXCC desk does that.
But when the application goes in, they see that application.
Yes, sir. So if you give me that P5 card, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to make sure that the information that's on the record sheet and everything is accurate. I'm going to annotate that application and say, I don't think this is valid. That's what I think, right? And I'm going to send in your application, and they're going to deny your credit. And honestly, when you get into this, what's valid and what's not valid, there's time frames when things are valid. There's certain countries or somewhere down in that part of the that was on a boat, not on the island, right? So those QSOs don't count. So they have people. That's what they do. That's part of the DXCC desk obligation is to make sure that those are legitimate.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. Are you seeing those? So I know a Cajun or two or three or 100 or 1,000 or whatever. So this is lanyard. This is stuff I learned along the way, a little extra that I learned along the way, or some of the things I learned the way in getting to the point at where I am in this card checking business that I think could be of interest to you. What is the relationship or the interaction between club log and LOTW? There's all kinds of things that are been said, and most of them that I have heard are not true. So this is the background behind it, and this is from the awards manager at ARRL telling me that for a QSO match in LOTW, both QSO partners must be registered and have an active call sign certificate in Logbook of the World. And after you and your QSO partner upload an ADI file to LOTW, only then is that logbook QSO match established, and then credit toward then you can get the credit toward the ARRL award. Not well worded, but that's what that means. But what Logbook of the World is, Logbook of the World from an LOTW point of view is another logging program. Logbook of the World will upload your QSOs, and if you have to put in your TQSL credentials, you'll upload them, and it's perfectly legitimate. It uploads them, and it downloads any matches that occur. But because P5DX again, doesn't use LOTW, but he does use club log, and you work him and you send your application, you send your QSOs to club log, and he sends his QSOs to club log, you get a match, right? But just because you didn't match there, you don't get a match in LOTW because it's not valid. Because he didn't upload his QSO into LOTW.
You got to have the credentials to do so.
That's right. I thought that was really interesting. Now, I honestly, I asked this of several people and I got varying different answers. And I said, well, I asked Doug and Doug told me one thing, and I asked Kim told me something else. And I said, I went back to Doug and I said, well, Doug, I asked Kim the same question and I got this answer. And I went both ways, right? And I made the parties come together and tell me, give me an answer, right? So I'm pretty comfortable with the answer. That's why I'm doing this. For what it's worth, CQ awards. This is interesting to me because I don't have any CQ awards. The only way you can get credits for CQ awards is from LOTW. And you see that you can apply. You can actually make a CQ a work all zones, for instance, application in LOTW. They take traditional paper QSL cards, and they accept EQSL matches between stations as long as they both have what is known as authenticity guaranteed status in EQSL. And there's an extra step that you have to take in order to be an AG. You see, EQSL AG, that's what that is, authenticity guaranteed.
I got that. It seems to me there was a small fee with that.
I don't know if
And I've never used it, don't use the QSOs.
I don't either, but CQ awards will accept those. Now, also the other thing I learned is with this issue of cards and that kind of stuff, and there is one CQ awards manager, I think, yeah, for sure that's right. Anyway, they have something called CQ checkpoints. And a CQ checkpoint is an individual that is essentially functions the same way as an ARRL card checker. Now, that's a big statement because I don't know exactly what their processes are, but that's what it looks like to me. And they do have lists on the CQ website of CQ checkpoint. Yeah, I didn't either. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah. So it makes sense. I mean, they have the same issues, right? People scattered all over the world that want to have these papers looked at, and it's a hassle to mail and ship all this stuff all over creation to do it. But having somebody authorized in certain localities makes it go easier. So that's the way it works. IOTA, Islands on the Air. You can get credit for I said CQ awards. It should be IOTA awards. Can be attained with traditional paper QSL cards, club log matches. They accept club log matches for IOTA. Okay, and I don't know how you get those to them, but they accept it, it says. And they also have QSO, contest QSO matches. So if I'm on Island X and I work Kim, and if he wants to get credit for Island X, then when I submit my contest log and he submits his log, he can use that contact to get credit. It's pretty interesting. And IOTA has something called checkpoints as well. And these are individuals that function, from the best I can tell, in the same manner as, or similar manner as ARRL card checkers do. So, anybody got any questions?
There you go, Roby. Are you here? Roby,
Roby can't hear us
As I
because
told
he
Doug
doesn't
earlier,
have
it's
his
an
speaker
interesting
turned on.
experience.
he did.
Dealing with the public hams or the public, just like if you've ever worked a realtor, if you've ever worked a job, a retail job where you're up front with the public, you see all kinds of things. You see all kinds of things with hams too. I think what I'm trying to show you here is if you follow these guidelines, sort of do things this way, you'll still have issues because it's not totally clear in a lot of cases exactly what to do or how to do it, but you won't have many issues. Another thing I didn't say was I have found in my short tenure in this, I have found several errors
This is
in
difficult.
documentation that ARRL has. And I have pointed those out to the manager, kind of the guy that we work for, the woman for, if you want to think about it like that.
He's
And
not
she has
answering
been
his
pronto
phone either.
quick to change. Now they're not big things, but hey, it's yeah. So if you see something, you know, let's communicate, and we'll try to solve some of the problems. If we solve it, you know, if we can fix something, that's going to be one less step, one less hole that somebody else is going to step in and get like.
I have a comment, Roby.
Well,
He can't hear you. He doesn't have his speaker on.
Oh,
Now, Roby, can you hear us at
somebody says,
all?
turn on my speaker.
Turn on your speaker.
Yes, he wants to.
Turn on your speaker.
Hear him.
Oh,
We've been trying to
I don't
talk
do
to
that.
you for the past hour, but you have had your speaker turned off.
well, my audio's on. Should be. Oh, it's not. It's turned down.
Roby, we've been trying to talk to you for the past hour, but your speaker has been turned off.
Well, I do that to keep the
It's
echo
fine.
down.
We just had a bunch of questions and you didn't hear us. So, and nobody had us on view. So, oh, well.
But
You
what's
ready,
the
Roby?
questions?
Roby, when you're at a convention, is still a limit of 110 QSLs standard? Or has that changed?
I didn't hear that, Mike. Try again.
There used to be a limit of 110 QSL card limit at conventions. Is that still a limit?
I don't remember seeing that. I'm not going to say that it's not, but in the, you know, the really thorough, complete and concise 30 seconds of training I got, I didn't come away with that.
Roby, this is Rick. A comment about the online DXCC and the question about sorting the cards. You put the QSOs into online DXCC and whatever you want. You print out the worksheet and you put the cards in the same order as they come out on the worksheet. No specific country prefix, whatever order is required, just in the same order as the worksheet prints them out.
Okay, good.
And the other thing is, this is a good thing to know for somebody who has a bunch of them. The online DXCC entry accepts an ADIF. So if you have the contacts in your logger, you just export, you pick and export the ones you want to submit, export it to an ADIF, and then point the online DXCC application to that ADIF, and it will enter all of them, and you don't have to retype anything.
I believe you're right.
I have a comment, Roby.
Yes, sir.
You can hear me. Good. Don, N5LZ up here in Utah. I've been a card checker for 17, 18 years up here. And I agree with most everything you say. Basically, so that I don't take myself too seriously, I realized a long time ago that I'm just doing all the scut work for all those people at the DXCC desk back there. and thereby reducing the overall cost of the program for the for the users out there. But I think the most important thing, the most important point with all of this is the DXCC checker's role is primarily to make sure that the information on that application exactly matches what's on those cards. Critical information, DXCC entity, call sign, QSO date, mode, and band. And
what-
make sure that the call sign of the station, your call sign, that the you may have had one or two call signs in your tenure as a DXCC chaser. But anyway, our role is simply to make sure that that information on the application matches what's on the cards. We don't make any judgments. That's all up to the DXCC desk. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in one more time. It's nice to see you
Thank you.
guys. Nice to see a few old faces on there from days gone by. Tuna, Mike, nice to see you guys.
Don, are you able to check 160 cards?
Yeah, I have DXCC 160. That's the only criteria if you hold, and it's kind of a Mickey Mouse rule when you think about it, but it's still the rule.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyone that holds the DXCC for 160 can be a checker for that award.
Is there anybody here who does not have at least one DXCC award? Oh,
Maybe Chris.
okay. Well, so the
Yeah, three of
thing
them?
that's the thing that can be confusing is if you don't have an award at all and you have 50 cards, you use the same process. You just don't, you apply for the award, but you don't apply for a certificate. It's not obvious, but that's what you do. You put in the 50 cards that you have, and then once those are in the system, you can merge those in with what's in Logbook of the World. The form doesn't say that, but that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sitting up here with 53 countries confirmed on 6-meter DXCC, and I've been working 50 years to get to that point. I'm up here in that challenged part of the map that doesn't get into Europe very easily, like even you guys down there. But anyway, I just slowly building that up, and I will never get DXCC on 6 meters. It'll just never happen. But I get those credits for the DXCC challenge anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of discussion about what's going to happen in September and October on 6 meters. A lot of wishful thinking, but I'm hard behind it. The wishful thinking's will help. I'm doing my part with the increase in sunspots and all that stuff. So.
And just as a comment, Roby, because of the type of card checker he is, can do WAS and VUCC and DXCC. Okay. But if you go online and search for VUCC card checkers in Texas, he's not on the list. And if you go online and look for WAS card checkers in Texas, he's not on the list. So thank you, Roby, for being there, but the ARRL hasn't got it all right yet.
Yeah, that's another one of those idiosyncrasies I was talking about. One of the first things I did when I got appointed was I looked to see who the other card checkers were. And I found a number of guys on the various lists who were silent keys. And this is one of the changes that
Brian Dirks was one of them.
That's right. He was one of them, but there were a few others as well. And so that's all got fixed. But
so the point is, if you talk to other people who are doing applications, and they say, I don't find a card checker, well, you can help them out by saying, go to the DXCC one and ask the card checker.
I think one of the reasons for that might be they've at least they used to make it optional for DXCC checkers to check WAS or VUCC
Mhm.
from the point of view of the DXCC checker. And of course, I don't know of anyone that's ever refused to do that. I don't see any point doing that, but it's always been an optional thing, and that may be the reason for that discrepancy. But
Well, and maybe Don, the other thing is that when it was all cards, there was a pretty heavy load on the DXCC checkers. And maybe they wanted to spread things around. And
That's a
Mike,
good point.
and so back to the online DXCC thing. The biggest thing that does is it makes sure that you have the right stuff on the form. No, the other thing that it does is because you're typing it into the ARRL's system, okay? The stuff is there and it has a number. And when the card checker sends the forms in, they just go, okay, accept that. They don't have to do anything and you can get, you know, whereas if you send the cards in, I don't know if they still do it, but it used to be they had volunteers that took the cards and typed the information in. And that took forever. Oh, well. So if you're doing DXCC, use the online application. And here's what that does. The main thing that it does is it gets all of the information in ARRL system. And then you print out the papers, take it to the card checker with the cards. They approve it, fax it in or copy it in. And the ARRL people don't have to retype anything. And yeah, Don, you're right. You're shilling for them, but it makes it a whole lot easier on the recipients. The other thing is response with your certificates and that kind of stuff can be weeks. So just be prepared and wait a couple of weeks or 3 or 4. And then don't hesitate to contact ARRL because there's a person that checks the awards and puts them into the system and approves them. And somebody else prints and mails the certificates and somebody else gets the endorsement stickers together and mails them. So even though it says approved and accepted and there's still queues to get the other stuff done.
I've got a question. Once this, in particular VUCC, once these cards are in the system, what happens? Does it appear in Logbook of the World? VUCC?
That's another program. That's another presentation.
Oh
no, I'm kidding. Roby?
So it will, I've been doing some testing. Paper cards. So when you look at that award status page in LOTW, if you look over just to the right of it, to the right of where all the numbers are, the bands and the countries and all that kind of stuff, you will see something that says that this, in my case, it says that this data is linked to my DXCC record. So whenever I look in those numbers, when I take my DXCC mixed, and I open it up, I see in there that I have credit for Kermadec Island on 2 bands. If I search my LOTW records, I have no QSOs with Permadeck Island. Those QSOs were made long before LTW existed. So those paper cards that I submitted do appear because my DXCC record, which is a different thing than LOTW, are appropriately linked. I am told that the same thing will happen, or I have been told that the same thing will happen with VUCC, but I do not have any VUCC. I do not have any QSL cards that have been submitted for VUCC, so I can't verify that personally. I asked Rick this morning if he had any, and the last conversation I had with him was that we did not. So we have not personally verified that.
Wait, for WAS, I don't. For
Yeah, that's right.
For VUCC and DXCC, absolutely. Here's what you got to remember. There's three pieces to this at the highest level. There's Logbook of the World. There's the online award application. And there's the legacy databases where all of your card QSLs are stored.
Yes.
Okay. Logbook of the World, card QSLs that are called legacy databases. All right. They're completely independent of each other, and this guy can't see this one. In the middle, if you've done the link, it pulls the information from Logbook of the World and the legacy cards and shows you in your online award application stuff. Okay. Now, just a second, Doug. On the side of legacy, okay, there's a legacy database for DXCC. There's a legacy database for WAS, and there's a legacy database for VUCC. So when you put things in, cards in for DXCC, it goes to this one, and the online application will do it there. There's a place for WAS cards, and there's a place for VUCC cards. So there's three legacy databases, one Logbook of the World database that has all of that, all three together. And then in the middle is the application that can see both sides, but these things are separate. Doug, you're muted, but go ahead.
I got one more comment.
Go ahead, Don, while Doug is working on it there. Go ahead.
Okay. Just one point. Over the years, I think the majority of the applications, the submissions that I've checked, the majority of those applications do have one or two errors. I've had more applications that have errors on them than those that do not have errors. And they're innocent errors. They're getting a call sign entered wrong, or maybe getting a country name of an entity wrong. Just simple little things. And that's okay. You know, we find those errors as checkers. We make a note of it. Then when the application goes in, the people at the DXCC desk, they take those entries that have the errors and they correct those in the system. All the rest of them are already fine, so they don't have as much work to do. But my point is, most people make a little error here or there, and it's not a big deal. But that's why it's important just to make sure when you enter this stuff that you do the best you can to eliminate errors. And as Rick said, import an ADIF if you can, because that'll make things a lot easier too.
Yeah, I think one thing for Roby's sake is that's something you can tell people is when you talk to them. Don't be upset if there's something that we find that's not right. Because
that's why I made my comment. You know, I tried to point those out, and I've had several where we've sat down and we've corrected. You know, we've made, hey, this like I used in my example about the mode. You know, everything was correct that the guy had on there, except the mode was wrong. The card was clear as day, so we just fixed it.
You're muted, Doug. We can't hear you.
I-
Doug is muted. We can hear Roby, but we can't hear Doug.
I'm still here.
Now you can hear you. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay. I started getting, just a second. I started getting the QSL or QSL cards by email, like 3C3CA and a couple of other Chinese stations. Are those valid? I can show you one right here.
I have those too. I do not think so.
No,
Well,
they're
they
not.
have to go through
Answer
the,
that question.
do they have to go through the postal system?
Yeah, because they're not signed. They don't have their real signature on them. They have a duplicate of the signature or a copy of it or whatever. It's not their signature, not their,
Or how many
it's the
QSL?
same,
Most of them.
go ahead.
Yeah.
It's the same as if you created one on your own system and printed it out.
It's not valid.
Because of what?
Because
Not valid for DXCC purposes at all.
because it's the same as if you created it on your computer and printed it out.
It
I
has,
create
it has to be.
QSLs on my computer and send them to other people.
You sign it, you fill it out. It has postage on it. A digital QSL other than Logbook of the World is not accepted by ARRL.
Roby, what time does your meeting end? Roby, you're muted.
Sorry.
When is your meeting
What is
end,
your
Roby?
question?
When does your meeting end? At
20 minutes.
okay.
So worthwhile?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it'll be on the website, YouTube website soon, right?
Well, I'll have to see how we get in there. There's some problems with our webpage. And I'm not sure that you can update them right now.
Okay.
They could go to the, we call it not Facebook, it's the other thing. YouTube, if you go to our YouTube page. I'll put that for somehow.
Is there anything squirrely about deleted countries that you have to worry about, Roby? You muted Roby again.
I do not think so.
No, there's nothing. It's as long as you look at the dates for when that country was valid, because there's a list that says when the country was valid and so on.
Yeah.
And as long as the QSL is within those dates, it's accepted for your DXCC. Of course, it's not added to your honor roll count because that's only current ones.
Right.
But as far as your overall total, yes.
Yeah, for challenge, it's okay.
Yeah. But again, it's just, you got to make sure, and that's something that the card checker has to know.
Yep. If anybody's interested, this is off subject. There's about 50 to 55 hams on Maui that are possibly affected. I'm trying to find the 1010 members on Maui right now. I've found 2. I haven't worked either one of them, but they got a problem.
I have one other comment. I'll ask Roby. I'll put him on the spot here. I think you've answered this one, Roby. If I have a card that gives me a country on 6 meters, say, and it's also a new grid, do I have to submit it twice? Once for DXCC and once for VUCC?
The answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
And if you think about it, if you do the same thing on LOTW, you have to make an LOTW application for DXCC, and you have to make an LOTW application for VUCC, and you're including the same QSO in both cases, and it costs you 15 cents each time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it works.
I haven't applied for the UCC or anything WAC. When I ran it through, it looked like $88 in charges.
What was the statement? We can't hear him.
No, he's talking about worked all zones, the same issue, and how much money it costs whenever you do it.
Okay. Yeah, the CQ stuff is expensive if you want to try to get those out of LOTW. Just because there's so many.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. We'll be looking for other topics. Would be good if somebody has got something that carry on to this or some other thing they'd like to share. It would be great.
Well,
We need some more.
a follow on to this, Roby, is to show how to make the application in the award application function that you get to from Logbook of the World,
Okay.
if you haven't already done that. I mean, if that hadn't already been done as a
From a program point of view, I don't think
subject.
so, but it would certainly be worth. Okay, so that could be in the future.
because that's where people are going to be. You haven't already done it. That's where more and more of it's going to happen. Thank you for your time, Roby.
You're welcome.
Okay, good night, y'all.
Thank you, Doug.
DX.